Farai and Dakari have been married for about 4 years. Their wedding was beautiful, held in a sunlit garden surrounded by their family and closest friends. Everything felt perfect. The vows were heartfelt, the smiles were genuine, and the love between them was clear for everyone to see. As they danced in celebration of their love, it felt like they were stepping into a future that could only bring happiness. Farai believed Dakari was her soulmate, and in those moments, it seemed nothing could break them apart. The first 2 years of their marriage were good. Dakari worked hard, often traveling for his business, and Farai stayed busy, managing their home. She missed him when he was gone, but she understood his ambition. She reassured herself that it was just a phase, and once the business settled, they'd spend more time together. They still had their moments, late night calls when he was away, shared laughter when he returned home, and quiet evenings that reminded her why she fell in love with him. But as time went on, Dakari's work trips became longer and his calls shorter. He seemed distracted even when he was home, his mind always on the next deal or project. Farai told herself it was temporary, that he'd come back to her fully once the business succeeded. But her patience began to wear thin. The house grew quieter, the empty spaces larger, and the spark in their marriage dimmed. Farai tried to fill her days with activities, joining clubs, picking up new hobbies, and meeting friends. She even started volunteering to help with community based projects, but none of it filled the ache in her heart. The loneliness in the house was overwhelming. She'd sit in their living room at night, staring at the clock, hoping Dakari would call or send a message. Most nights, he didn't. One evening, tired of the silence and the sadness that seemed to cling to her, Farai decided to do something out of the ordinary. She left the house and went to a bar nearby. It wasn't a place she'd been to before, but the idea of being around people, even strangers, felt better than staying home alone. The bar was warm and inviting, with soft music playing in the background and the hum of conversation filling the air. Farai ordered a drink and found a seat in the corner. She sipped slowly, watching the people around her laugh and talk. For a moment, she felt invisible, like a shadow in someone else's life. Mind if I sit here? A voice interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see a man standing beside her. He had kind eyes and a smile that was hard to resist. Sure, she said, surprised at her own answer. The man introduced himself as Hakeem. He was easy to talk to, with a warmth and humor that immediately put her at ease. They started with small talk, how their days had been, the music playing in the background, but soon the conversation turned deeper. Hakeem asked about her life, her dreams, and her struggles, and he listened intently, as if every word mattered. For the first time in months, Farai felt seen. She laughed at his jokes, something she hadn't done in a long time, and shared pieces of herself she thought had been forgotten. Hakim had a way of making her feel alive, like the weight of her loneliness was lifting, even if only for a little while. I haven't laughed like this in ages, she admitted, her cheeks warm from both the drink and his attention. Hakim smiled. You should laugh more often. It suits you. That night, Farai went home feeling lighter than she had in months. She told herself it was just a conversation, nothing more, but deep down, she knew it meant something. Over the weeks that followed, Farai and Hakeem ran into each other again at the bar, at the market, and even once at a park. Each
It
meeting felt serendipitous, like they were being drawn together by something beyond their control. Their conversations became more frequent, their connection deeper. Hakim made her feel vibrant, reminding her of the person she used to be before the loneliness took over. He noticed the little things about her, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the way her voice softened when she spoke about something she loved. He made her feel special, like she mattered in a way she hadn't felt in years. The first time they kissed, it felt inevitable. Farah knew it was wrong, but at that moment, it didn't matter. Hakim made her feel alive, and she didn't want to let that go. Their relationship quickly deepened. They began meeting in secret, stealing moments whenever they could. Hakim became her escape, a source of joy and passion that filled the emptiness Dakari had left behind. But with every stolen moment, the guilt grew. Farai justified her actions by telling herself that Dakari had emotionally abandoned her long before Hakim came into her life. She clung to the happiness Hakim brought, even as the weight of her choices pressed harder on her heart. One evening, while Dakari was overseas on another long trip, Farai decided to take a risk. She invited Hakim to her home. She wanted to share a piece of her world with him, to see what it felt like to have him there openly, even if only for a short while. As they walked into the living room, Hakim's eyes landed on a photograph hanging on the wall. It was a picture of Farai and Dakari, taken on their wedding day. His expression changed immediately. "That's Dakari," Hakim said, his voice tense. Farai looked at him, confused. "Yes, that's my husband." "Why?" Hakim stepped back, his face pale. "He's my brother." The words hit Farai like a thunderclap. She stared at him, trying to process what he had just said. "Your brother?" she repeated. Hakim nodded, his voice trembling. "We haven't spoken in years. We had a falling out after our parents passed, and I moved away. I didn't know he was your husband." The weight of the revelation crushed them both. Farai felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving her gasping for breath. Hakim's face was a mix of disbelief and anguish, his love for her now tangled with the realization of what it meant. Days turned into weeks, and neither of them knew what to do. They stopped seeing each other, but the damage was done. Hakim wrestled with his feelings for Farai and the betrayal he felt towards Dakari. Farai was consumed by guilt, her every thought a whirlwind of regret and fear. As if the situation wasn't complicated enough, Farai discovered she was pregnant. The news sent her spiraling. She couldn't be sure who the father was, Dakari or Hakim, and every possibility seemed catastrophic. Yet, despite everything, Farai knew one thing for certain: she was keeping the baby. For years, Farai had dreamed of becoming a mother. It was a desire so deep that no amount of guilt or fear could shake it. This child was her miracle, her chance to have something she had longed for more than anything else. No matter what happened, no matter how messy or painful things became, she would not give up on this baby. Hakim urged her to tell Dakari the truth. He deserves to know, Farai. You can't keep this from him forever. But the thought of confessing terrified her. She imagined Dakari's face when he found out, the hurt and betrayal in his eyes. She feared losing everything: her marriage, her lover, and the life she envisioned for her child. The weight of the secret grew heavier each day. Farai found herself lying awake at night, wondering how her life had come to this. She knew the truth would come out eventually, but for now, she held on to the fragile hope that somehow, some way, she could navigate the wreckage and protect the life growing inside her. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with shadows and questions, but one thing was clear: there was no turning back. What will happen when Dakari finds out the brother he hated was sleeping with his wife? Is the pregnancy Dakari's or Hakeem's? Will Farai take the bold step and tell Dakari the truth? Or will the truth reveal itself? Watch out for part 2. If you want to be notified when part 2 is posted, subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up.